Hello and welcome to another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Connor Moreno, lead writer for UCLA Bruins on SI. And today was a pretty slow news day, didn't have much to talk about necessarily. So we're going to continue a series that we started up a couple days ago, which is kind of previewing and reviewing UCLA's latest transfers and what they did last season and how they'll help the Bruins this season. In part one, which I believe was on Monday, if I remember correctly, it was on Monday, we talked about Nico Yamalava, of course, Javion Thomas, and Eugene Brooks. On today's episode, we have three defensive transfers, Nico Davalier, Andre Jordan Jr., and Ben Perry. So we'll get into that. I do know that Deshaun Foster and Ikai Malloy were stressing kind of bolstering, especially the secondary, but bolstering the defense during the transfer portal, just so it could be a bit more viable this upcoming season. Without further ado, let's get into it. We have Nico Davalier. He's a senior transfer edge coming from Arkansas. He's the highest rated defensive transfer for the Bruins. And he had a pretty disruptive season with Arkansas. He finished with 23 tackles, 2 TFLs, 1 sack. I think he played maybe all 12 games, not too sure exactly. But this is just another Razorback coming to UCLA. Obviously, Madden Imalava, who we're going to talk about in a episode soon, he came from Arkansas as well. So let's go ahead and look at what David Woods for Bruin Report Online said about Davalier. UCLA took a step back in its pass rush last season with Latu, the Murphy twins, and Carl Jones being replaced by Oluwafemi Oladijo and an assortment of utility guys. Now it's poised to take another step back with Oladijo gone and no obvious replacements waiting in the wings. It's maybe the most critical thing to figure out entering fall camp. This was written way back before, might have been around spring training. Not too sure who's going to provide some pass rush. Davalier is an option. He played 3 years at Arkansas with considerable snaps coming the last 2 years. He recorded a productive 34 tackles in that time, but managed just 2 sacks. The question obviously is whether he can significantly increase his production in his last year of college eligibility. The list of guys who have done so is pretty short. The reality, though, is that he may thrust into a larger role than he ever had with the Razorbacks, given the lack of ideal options. And perhaps that increased role leads to a breakout for him. So he is UCLA's highest defensive rated transfer, but he isn't necessarily projected to, be all that productive. Basically, he is going to have a massive role, as Woods described, and I guess in his last year of eligibility, they're just hoping that he's going to go ahead and find something within that role. Davalier is going to be one of the notable defensive players to watch out for. Which, speaking of which, on to our next one is Andre Jordan Jr. He is a junior transfer junior transfer corner. He's coming from Oregon State. He was the 39th ranked corner in the transfer portal, and he is in a transfer portal full of corners. He's UCLA's top-rated defensive back. And he is also UCLA's projected starting quarterback after losing Kalen Moore, Devin Kirkwood, and Jalen Davies. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the Bruin Report Online staff said about Andre Jordan Jr. and him coming to UCLA. UCLA needed a starter-level player at cornerback from the transfer portal for the 2025 season, and it looks like it got one with Jordan. Demetrius Martin, who was one of UCLA's best recruiters when he was with the program during the Jim Mora era, did some great recruiting here with Jordan before he was ever officially announced as the new UCLA secondary coach. And he said if you scroll through the Instagram, Martin with Jordan and his dad on the official visit, there was a post dating back to, I can't remember when, but Demetrius Martin has put in considerable work in Andre Jordan Jr. It's good to see that Martin hasn't missed a beat in terms of his recruiting energy and effectiveness. With the advent of Davies to the portal, it appears Martin is reworking the secondary and the secondary's entire personnel. It's probably safe to perhaps anticipate more secondary departures. UCLA, this was obviously before the brunt of the transfer portal transpired. UCLA and transfer portal efforts this offseason might not be able to upgrade many of the position groups or even equal the talent it had last season, but with the addition of Jordan, another commitment from nickel safety Benjamin Perry, and the remaining guys Martin is currently recruiting, you'd have to say, though, the secondary could end up being one of the units that does have a chance to be upgraded from last season. So obviously, pretty high expectations for Andre Jordan Jr., especially after a recently, I guess I would say, crippled secondary. And he is a starter level corner. He's going to come in. He's going to impact the game. And yeah, I mean, Demetrius Martin has also done a really good job at recruiting in the 2026 class. The secondary position group in the 2026 recruiting class is pretty good. So Demetrius Martin has done a really good job at recruiting in his time at UCLA. And they reference Benjamin Perry. Let's move on to him because he's the last person for this edition. Benjamin Perry's a redshirt senior, transfer linebacker. He's coming from Louisville. He was previously a safety, but Perry comes to Westwood with the hopes to be UCLA's starting linebacker. With the departures of Kane Medrano and Carson Schlesinger to the NFL. Last season he had 29 tackles and 3 TFLs with a sack for Louisville. And this is what David Woods, again, had to say about Benjamin Perry. UCLA is replacing its starting linebacker core from last year, and the Bruins had quite the tandem in Kane Medrano and Carson Schlesinger, 2 NFL draft picks. Filling those shoes will not be easy, while much of the focus will be on replacing Schlesinger's excellent instincts and feel. Replacing Medrano's athleticism and ability to cover is also going to be difficult. Could Perry help out in that area? That's the hope, or that he at least might replace some of what Ale Cajo provided last year. The former safety certainly has the coverage skills, but whether he can also defend the run without giving up too much at about 205 pounds is the real question. He looks more like a safety masquerading as a linebacker, and that can work in certain systems, but much will depend on his own tenacity and strength. We could also see him fit into more of a situational linebacker role, a la Kenny Churchwell at times in his last year at UCLA, while also fitting in as a safety in a pinch. It'll be very interesting to see how he ends up being used. So, I mean, Ben Perry, without a doubt, is, I would say a versatile defensive addition. He is going to be expected to start at linebacker, and David Woods obviously pointed out the potential flaws in that, just him being like a safety frame and how effective that is going to be against the run game. But without a doubt, he will be essential to kind of the middle of the defense and kind of providing enforcements for the strength, especially in the front lines. And he's filling the shoes of Kane Medrano and Carson Schlesinger as they mentioned. So it's going to be a big role to fit. And yeah, without a doubt, that was another edition of the transfers. We have 30 transfers to get to, so I'll get to the next edition of this whenever I have a chance. Today is Thursday, so that means that the Bruins are expecting a big commitment from Marcus Almada, which we will probably talk about tomorrow on Friday. So again, thank you for listening and watching. As always, I'm your host, Connor Moreno. We'll see you tomorrow.